You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano,
host of Locked On Rays, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making the Locked On Rays podcast your first listen every day. And remember, Locked On Rays is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube at Locked On Rays. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Rays and email us anytime, lockedonrays@gmail.com. Ulises, it is a Tuesday, which means we are back to our player review series. And we have Psycho Pete, Crazy Eyes Pete. Pete Fairbanks is who we have up on the docket. And as we do these player reviews, we give an overview with their stats, what went right with the player, what went wrong, the player's future with the team, and a grade of the player from the 2021 season. So, Ulises, we present Pete Fairbanks.
Has anybody trademarked the Psycho Pete thing? Because you got me. That's the first time you've ever dropped that one on me today.
I think it was a coach with the Texas Rangers that threw that out there.
Okay. Oh, that's a good one. How have we never called them like that?
I do
offensive?
not.
That could be offensive. I don't know.
It could be, but it does go back to the fact that he would get very, very upset.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the eyes kind of give it away too. Like he is. I know we just finished Halloween, but he is made for a horror movie, if you will. But he would, like, if he messed up in a bullpen session or missed through a pitch, he would break his sunglasses, break brand new Oakleys. So that's where I think the Psycho Pete nickname was garnered.
Psycho Pete, Pistol Pete, Crazy Eyes, whoever he goes by with the nickname. He had a 42 2/3 season in 2021, a 3.59 ERA, a much better 2.7 FIP. Mm-hmm. He had 56 strikeouts in those 42 2/3 innings, 40 hits allowed, 11.1 percentage on the walk, and on the Ks, 29.6%. He was an F4 player, 1.00. Did you get his BREF WAR?
I think it was 0.0 actually on BREF.
Wow, that's interesting. We usually get FanGraphs a little bit of a bump up.
Yeah,
so
0.0. I just checked and confirmed.
Well, then, if we add those two together, an average amount, 0.5 WAR for Pete Fairbanks. Overall, I think he showed this season improvement from what we've seen in the past. I think unfortunately, the exceeds expectation is a bit too high for him right now. But I think he showed that he has the stuff.
Oh, yeah.
To be a guy that you can trust. I mean, when you see that every year he has maintained that fastball velocity, 2019, 97.4, 2020, 97.4, 2021, 97.1. So a little tick down, but still 97 miles an hour as an average velocity for that fastball. That's really nice when you kind of pair that up with the decreasing hard hit percentage year in and year out. You hope that means that he's learning how to pitch better to soft contact.
Those are absolutely some positive signs, and the spin rates have pretty much stayed true with the fastball and the slider. I know his slider has lost a couple ticks here and there, but that might be deliberate to get more vertical movement instead, which he has shown. And what we've seen with Pete Fairbanks since the Rays acquired him from the Texas Rangers in 2019, they made a point to flip-flop his usage. He was throwing more sliders beforehand. He was about a 56% slider, 44% fastball guy. Now it's basically reversed, where he's relying on the four-seam 58% of the time, and the slider 42% of the time. But you hit on a couple of things there, Ulises, that I think are encouraging for Pete Fairbanks going forward. Of course, we know about he has that, doesn't just average 97, but touches 99, 100 on occasion, or more than on occasion. But if you look compared to at least last year, and really I think his entire career, the exit velocity decrease, the max exit velocity decrease, the hard hit percentage decrease. Couple other stats that are worth noting. Pete allowed 5% of his balls in play to be barrels. The league average is 7%. So that's a good sign. And the swing and miss rate of 37.6%, which is well above league average of 24.9%. And I know we're going to have some negatives to discuss with Pete Fairbanks, but he did finish the regular season relatively strong with 7 consecutive scoreless appearances spanning 6 1/3 innings, during which he allowed 6 hits and generated a 7-3 strikeout to walk ratio.
And at times during his season, you can see that ceiling being met.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what gives you so much hope with Pete Fairbanks. It's the fact that he can put it together multiple times in a row. And when you couple that command and control with the stuff, he becomes a reliable arm at the back end of a bullpen.
Yeah.
We got to go back to that nickname, though. I love the fire that he plays with, man. I really do. I mean, as a fan, you just got to love players that exude passion, that are there for every pitch. Like, that gives you fans. That gets you people to love you no matter what, because they know that you're feeling every pitch, man.
No, and he brings that aura, that intimidating presence, and he's 6'6", 225 pounds. And what I appreciate about Fairbanks, at least off the field, is he hasn't been afraid to call out the haters. He hasn't been afraid to call out the media companies that all they do is talk about the Yankees and the Red Sox. That's appreciated, that you have somebody that's going to be outspoken and stand up for the franchise that he plays for.
Not only media companies, but MLB itself.
Yeah.
He has called the Yankees the golden child. Love that about Pete Fairbanks. Are you kidding me? You have a Rays player that is willing to actually say things that us as Rays fans do feel every day, every time that there's not a Baseball Tonight segment on ESPN about the team that had 100 wins in 2021 when they get names wrong repeatedly on the national stage. It's great to have a guy like Pete Fairbanks. And moving on from the off-field stuff and maybe the attitude on field, I will say the easy type delivery.
Yes.
Love that because when you're a pitcher that's so lanky and so tall and there are so many moving parts all the time, when you lose it on the mound, we've seen how guys that are his size and build have a difficult time getting it back on track. With that easy type delivery, he's kind of eliminating all of that external noise that can happen and just pinpoint a couple of things that if something is not right, he can just go to them. Of course, it's also helpful that Kyle Snyder is also a tall guy himself, and he can relate to these long, lanky pitchers. But I will say that easy type delivery, it's always a positive when it's by guys that are this tall.
And that might have had to be by design, considering this was a guy that had 2 Tommy John surgeries. Like, you better clean that thing up and make sure it's repeatable and you're not having a lot of herky-jerky and you're not doing the inverted W, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I do notice sometimes, and I don't know if this is something that can be changed or altered, but he does have a tendency to fall off the mound a little bit, but he is working from the extreme first base side. So he just maybe doesn't have quite as much footing as if he was on the middle of the mound. But that is an astute point you made.
And the left tapping, foot tapping, it's kind of gone in and out at times. Sometimes it's even more pronounced, sometimes a little bit less. So I would like to see if that's going to keep up for 2022, because it's borderline balking. Like, it's right there. Like, I have seen way less things get called a balk than that.
That is true.
I mean,
maybe the umpires are afraid to call him on a balk. Like, we don't want Psycho Pete to go crazy, to go nuts on us here.
Maybe that's a reason why you have that look, to intimidate. And you know what? That's exactly what you want from bullpen guys, is to have that intimidating factor. So no, overall, I think it was a positive year.
Yeah.
I think you see movement in the right direction, but I don't think we saw enough.
Yeah,
that we wanted.
There are some drawbacks, which we'll get to. But first, we've got to tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline is back and better than ever. A new web interface for the start of the basketball season and more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. So be sure to head over to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use their promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON. Again, that's LOCKEDON to receive that very special welcome bonus. BetOnline, it is the fastest and the easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. It is where the game starts. Okay, Ulises, over the course of the season, if there's something we've learned, Pete Fairbanks has been on your crap list at times. So I am going to let you go off. Go off on Petey. What went wrong with Petey this season?
After hearing that nickname, that new nickname, I don't know if I want to have him DM me and say, what's your problem, man?
This might have to be something, a call to the listeners out there. What is the best nickname for Pete Fairbanks? Is it that. Crazy Eyes? Is it Psycho Pete? Is it Fiery Fairbanks?
Pistol Pete? Ooh, Fiery Fairbanks. What is this? This is awesome.
Flaming Fairbanks? I don't know. Something with the fastball, something with his eyes, something with his
demeanor, the passion. Okay, I love it.
He kind of reminds me of the Undertaker a little bit, the pro wrestler. Yes. So there could be a lot of game planning there. So if you have an idea, I know we did this with the whole
Bobby Porter there.
Yeah, the whole Randy Arozarena nickname back in the day when he got called up. And,
boy, that got fiery amongst fans, didn't it?
So if you have a suggestion or an idea, feel free to throw that out there. But Pete Fairbanks he had his struggles. He had his moments.
He does. And I think the struggles are the amount of base runners.
Yeah.
You cannot have a guy at the end of the game, in the end of the bullpen, that in 42 2/3 innings, he not only allowed 40 hits, but then walks so many others. His whip is at 1.43. 1.43. I mean, that is non-tenable at the back end of a bullpen. It really isn't. And the frustrating part is that the strikeouts are there. So he will go through an outing where he'll face 5 hitters. He'll strike out 3, but allow a walk and a hit.
Yeah.
And things got hairy. It doesn't really give you a lot of confidence there, Kevin, to bring out a guy that is going to get allow a hit and possibly a walk. So you're already behind the 8 ball, putting a guy on here at the later part of the of the game, and then I love this stat for pitchers left on base percentage, how they strand runners. His was not that good.
Yeah.
67.6% of runners are being stranded on. That's not good, folks. That's not good. Chagua was in the 90% or more. That means when you have base runners on, you will leave them stranded. That's what we want. A high percentage of that. Strand as many runners as you can. Pete Fairbanks at 67%. He's allowing too many hits. He's giving out too many free walks. Or free runners, rather, by giving them walks, and then they're scoring. He's not stranding them.
There's a couple things that I want to address. And one that we have to acknowledge is the struggles in extra innings. I think the runner on second thing must have screwed with him or hurt him in some way, because 3 of his 6 losses were in extra innings against the White Sox, Boston, and New York, respectively, where it's you give up a hit, you give up a single, and you lost the game, which is sort of unfair in a way. But to your point about the stranded runners and left on base percentage and the difficulty of watching Pete Fairbanks at times, one of maybe the lowest points of the season, at least for him, in that game against the Seattle Mariners in mid-June, where we just you saw the wheels come off. It was a 5-4 game in the 9th inning. Fairbanks is brought in. He walks Dylan Moore on 4 straight pitches. He gets an out, but then allows 3 base hits to Dylan Moore, Jake Bowers, and Kyle Seager to give he lost the game on a walk-off.
Yeah.
In all intents and purposes.
And I want to talk about that New York game that you called out. It was a ball that you should expect a Wander Franco, who is not fresh off AAA, to make a play like that. Maybe in September, Wander makes that play. He did not that time. He
was hurt by some errors and some bad luck at times.
I saw his
which I think is underscored in the FIP.
Yeah, exactly. The FIP, you can see that, but still a hit is a hit, man. And how many of those lucky hits were there in those situations in 2022, in 2021? 42 and 2/3, 40 hits. How many were lucky? 5? 6? 7? I mean, still too much contact is being provided for a guy that has the stuff to just blow it by guys.
Yeah, and that's a good point you made. And this is something that I wonder is going to be addressed in the offseason or changed at all. He's got great stuff, but the command and control is an issue. And one thing I've noticed with a lot of 3-2 counts, he goes to the slider. Why not go with the fastball? Make them hit it. Make them hit it. And even if they make contact, there's no guarantee that they're going to be able to square up that thing. Like, I get throwing a slider in 0-2, 1-2, maybe 2-2, but why are you kind of playing with fire and trying to force that slider in the zone on a full count? That's where a lot of the walks are given up. And I looked back at some of the bad, giving up the free passes. And sometimes we say, the pitcher got squeezed here and there. Fairbanks never got squeezed. When he missed really badly. He was yanking a ball in the dirt, or it was a breaking ball that didn't break and stayed at the top of the zone. And that's the other thing is, like, Mike Zunino might ask for a ball up and in, and Fairbanks throws it down and away. Sometimes he gets away with it. Sometimes it's a ball. Like, it's just, and that's sort of the risk you take a little bit with a guy that throws as hard as he does. And it also maybe, if there is sort of a positive lens to this, is it makes the hitter kind of tighten up a little bit of, this guy's throwing 97 to 100 and he doesn't really know where it's going all the time. I might need to, put that extra arm guard on.
It's the Randy Johnson effect of the early 90s. Oh my God, he doesn't know where he's throwing 98.
Yeah.
Holy blank. I am scared. Blankless.
Yes.
Out of being in this situation right here. It's tough because he does have the stuff to be a guy that you can give the ball and say, hey, here you go. Give me 3 give me 3 strikeouts. Not even outs. You can literally tell this guy, give me 3 strikeouts, and he can do that. The problem is he's going to get a hit and he's going to allow a walk. And I love that you said that he's not getting squeezed out there, because I did see his walks. And it's always down and away stuff. And I love the fact that you said the slider. Yeah, I think the pitch breakdown from Savant, I think it was Savant or Fangraphs that I had. It actually even put a cutter sometimes.
Yeah, you do see maybe a little differential with the fastball sometimes.
So maybe he's doing a 4-seam cutter and then a slider. But regardless, I maybe there's just not enough separation between those 2 pitches, and maybe there's not enough command and control with those 2 pitches. But I do think that's way too high of a strain percentage, of a left on base percentage to as many runners as you're having on.
Just to kind of hammer home this point, so league average of pitches thrown in the zone is 49.9%. Pete Fairbanks threw 45.9% of his pitches in the zone. So he's below average by a couple ticks in that marker.
So a guy that's below average on hitting the strike zone, you're going to give the ball to in a situation where the lead is 1 run, two runs in the 8th and 9th inning. That's why I am a strong proponent of use Fairbanks 6th, 7th inning when there's 2-3 runs. Like, I get the value in him, and I understand what he can become. He's not there yet.
Yeah. And he's, again, what's he, 27 years old?
Yeah,
so there's still,
27.
and we acknowledge the couple surgeries, so maybe he's a little bit behind some other guys his age. But I don't know. He's got the look of, this is who I want coming out the Sandman or some heavy metal music and coming in the ninth inning. But if you can't execute consistently, then that's a problem big time. All right, Ulises, moving on to Pete Fairbanks' future with the team. I checked this, at least according to Baseball Reference. Fairbanks is arbitration eligible in 2023 and will be a free agent in 2026, which, depending on what happens with the CBA, we don't know, but we'll just assume that he will be a cheap option for the Rays this coming year, 2022, where he'll make essentially league minimum under $600,000, whatever it may be, which the Rays like very much.
If you were one of those people that bought a Pete Fairbanks jersey or a jersey in 2019, good job, because this guy's going to be in the team next year, 100%. When you talk about the future and how you could better utilize him right now before he gets to hopefully fulfill all of the expectations that we all hope that he can succeed. When you look at the splits, Kevin, against right-handers, it's nice. It's real tasty. 27 innings, 16 hits allowed.
Okay.
12 walks. So you see the problem is ongoing. 35 Ks in those 27 innings, a 1.04 whip against righties. So, by the way, no home runs allowed against righties.
That is something we forgot to mention, and we kind of sort of alluded to it with the exit velocity and max exit velocity decreasing, but he has cut down on the bombs.
Yes.
Significantly.
0.42 home runs per 9.
Yeah.
Really nice to see that.
Which is why I'm saying 3-2 count, throw that fastball.
Throw the fastball. It's really hard to gauge up 97.
Yeah.
But this is maybe something that you could hopefully see them utilize Pete Fairbanks more is against righties. I mean, if the whole Rays motto since 2008 has been putting players in a position to succeed rather than trying to fit a round peg on a square hole, use Pete Fairbanks instead of like, I need this guy to be my ninth inning guy. I really need him, his crazy eyes in the 8th and 9th. Use him in the 6th when there are 3 righties.
Yeah.
Use him in the 7th when there are three righties and maybe a weak left-handed hitter. Use him that way. Get him with that confidence up. Pete Fairbanks looks like the guy when he has his confidence riding high, he can do anything he wants. He can do anything he wants, which includes a lot of strikeouts. So utilize him hopefully in the future in the 2022 season against righties. Let's try that.
It's fun when he strikes out a guy and he makes that little strut off the mound and turns towards second base. It's definitely a fun little thing there. You do wonder, though, about, and this is something that I'll be watching out for in 2022, assuming he's with the team and maybe beyond, is health. We talked about him having multiple Tommy John surgeries, but we also have to remember that he had 2 injured list stints last year due to shoulder issues. He had one in April, the rotator cuff strain, and then in August, right shoulder inflammation. And that might have been where he had some of his struggles, at least in September. Maybe he was trying to get back to his normal self, but that'll be something to watch going forward. And I just think about this, when I think of Pete Fairbanks, I'm like, when that trade was made back in 2019, that was a real baseball trade. It was need for a need swap where the Rays gave up Nick Solak, second base prospect, and the Rangers gave up Pete Fairbanks, who were like, we can't really, because he was struggling when he had time with the Rangers. We just, great arm, but we cannot figure him out. And the Rays are always like, hey, we can fix some bullpen guys here and there. And theoretically, I mean, let's be honest, was Nick Solak ever going to be able to pave a pathway into the Rays roster with so many other, it was part of that 40-man roster crunch. And there's only so many guys that, I mean, they didn't even give Cronenworth a shot, So, and you know what, Solak's, he's been solid, okay for the Rangers. He's not, I don't think, ever going to be an all-star. He's basically
You kept track. You kept.
he's the league average, below average. Like
He was a one-war player last year. 11 bombs.
You're gonna get like 700 OPS, dozen
Yep.
home runs, 245, 250 average.
Exactly.
Second base spot. That's basically what you're going to get. And what the Rays have gotten out of Pete Fairbanks the last couple of years, especially with all the pitching injuries, I think it was one of those things that worked out. It wasn't, oh, we're trying to this is a salary dump, or this is a huge, okay, we gotta clear the 40 man. It was a deal where it was like, okay, I think that this can help both sides, and I think it has for the most part.
Yeah, and I think again that you can still see the streaks of when Fairbanks has it going on, that he can be one of the top closers in the game, a high leverage guy that can just blow it by you. He definitely has the stuff and to succeed, but it just comes down to, can he hone in that command and control?
Yeah.
Can he make the right adjustments in real time? Not only like, from 2021 to 2022, his off season and all the work that he has to do in spring training. No, I mean like within the game.
Yeah, that's tough.
If he goes 1 ball, 2 ball, 3 ball count, can he just adjust and say, okay, what's going on here? Because it does seem like when he kind of derails himself a bit, it's very tough to get him back in the swing of things. And obviously that will happen more with relievers than with starters, because that's why they're relievers. They didn't have the command and control as other guys, but you see the potential in Pete Fairbanks, and let's hope that he can bring it on home next year.
That was kind of, at least when he was with the Rangers, that was sort of a knock on him, was, when he was going through struggles and challenges, being able to step off the mound, take a breath, regather yourself, and not let the last batter, the last 2 batters affect what's going to happen with what's going on now. And
yes,
we've seen that. We've seen it unravel at times for sure this past season with Pete Fairbanks. Okay. Grade for Pete Fairbanks.
Do you have that red Sharpie?
I do. You want mine?
I want it.
Okay. I am going to give Pete Fairbanks a C+ 79.
Ooh, I was nicer than you. I gave him an 83.
Okay.
An 83. So 78, 83, 81. I think most Rays fans would be okay with a B- to Pete Fairbanks, because you see the quality is so much more than an 81.
Yes.
It's so much more, but you got to come through. It can't all just be expectations, man. You got to come through with the results.
A couple projection systems here. Just want to get some quick over-unders from you. For 2022, Pete Fairbanks, over under 3.49 ERA.
Under. I'm under.
Okay.
Yes.
Over under 62 innings pitched.
Under.
Okay. Over under 9 saves.
Under.
Okay. Fair enough.
If you use Fairbanks as I want them to, begin in the 6th and 7th inning against righties. See his confidence go up and up and up, and then you can start giving him 8th and 9th inning opportunities.
Well, assuming we'll have 8th and 9th innings, who knows? We may be going to 7-inning games with the new CBA. Pete Fairbanks may be getting saves in 7 innings.
Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
I know. On that note,
yes,
thank you for making the Locked On Rays podcast your first listen every day. Now make your second listen the Locked On MLB podcast. That is also free and available on all platforms. Have a good day, and we will talk to you tomorrow.